Hello, listeners. Welcome to the Fourth Place Trophy podcast. This is Cloudst, and I will be the host for this Bundesliga podcast. Since this is officially our podcast, I'll be introducing you to two other people who will be joining us. To my left, I have Magneto. Hello, Magneto. How are you today?
Pretty good. Humans they should still die.
Yeah, if you guys don't know, Magneto is officially our mutant podcast host. And to my right, I have a man from London. His name is Thirteengoals. How are you today, 13?
I'm alright. Magneto's a bit of a downer though, but it's alright.
And today,
I do my best.
And today we're going to discuss the Bundesliga, our top four teams in the Bundesliga. We'll start off with Bayern, and we'll talk about Pep Guardiola and what they achieved last season and what to expect from them this season. We'll be talking about Dortmund and their transfers and the ongoing Lewandowski transfer, obviously, contract issues, also with Ilkay Gundogan. We'll also be talking about Leverkusen and how they lost some players and how they tried to recruit them, and can they still keep up with the big dogs of the Bundesliga. And finally, we'll end with Schalke, who obviously ended with a very good note with the Draxler's new contract and a lot of players, including Santana from Dortmund, which we will discuss in depth. So first of all, we'll start off with Bayern München. Now, Bayern München ended last season with one of the best records in German football history. They not only won the Bundesliga title, but they won that very elusive Champions League that they've always wanted, but just barely missed out at home to Chelsea the year before. So Magneto, Bayern just came off one of the possibly the best seasons you can come off of as a club. Where do you think Bayern will go from here, and how will they perceive the upcoming season?
Bayern is dominating the Bundesliga, and they just look at the players they have recruited this time around. Their record last season itself was supreme, and they've looked a threat in the Champions League for 2 years now at the very least. Like you mentioned, they've just missed out with Chelsea, and now they just seem to be getting stronger and stronger, and there seems to be only one person who can mess things up.
And that person is
Pep Guardiola.
So Pep Guardiola was just signed as their new manager this season, as the very great Jupp Heynckes retired from the Bundesliga, and we'll be talking about him later as we discuss Bayern. But Thirteengoals, how do you see Pep Guardiola influencing Bayern? Do you think it's a positive influence, or do you see it as a negative influence?
I see it as both. I mean, he's in negative light. He's only just stepped out of Barcelona's shadow, and it's his first real challenge outside the Barcelona hierarchy. But in a positive light, any new manager brings new ways of playing, helping different kind of players, and helping to solve attitude problems with some kind of players. So it's both positive and negative.
So it's a mixture of both. Now, you talked a little bit about tactics. Magneto, we saw in the cup game against Dortmund that Pep Guardiola used a 4-1-4-1 system. Do you think going forward that's a good move for Bayern, or does Pep Guardiola need to stick with the normal formation that Bayern used to win the Champions League last season?
You take a look at what Bayern achieved last season. They looked completely unstoppable. The first half of the season, I believe they conceded only 7 goals. Defensively, they were solid, and yet they pushed forward in attack like no other team could in the Bundesliga. Pep has taken that formation, and he's completely turned it around. With the 4-1-4-1 formation and the 4-1-4-1, it looks defensively very, very susceptible. Not sure exactly how quite a few of the players are going to fit into this new formation. It seems like he's trying to make them play a more fluent brand of football, but is it really needed? I don't see it per se.
So you don't think the fluid brand that Pep is trying to bring is gonna fire back at Pep Guardiola and the Bayern squad eventually?
That's the only thing that I see as a problem for Bayern right now. I mean, last season we pointed out, there might be a problem with a couple of players not performing, like Robin, for example, when I said that, I really didn't think he would be all that great. But still, he did have a pretty good season. And now you just take a look at things. And when everybody's performing well, you completely take that out, you destroy that, and you start afresh. Are the players going to take to this formation? How long are they going to get used to this? And if they do get used to it, is it going to be the same? Is it going to be just as effective anymore? I'm not sure.
Okay, that's a fair assumption. Now, 13 goals. You mentioned transfers. Now, Bayern did bring in Jan Kirchhoff, Sebastian Rode, Mario Götze, and Thiago Alcantara. Do you see how this improves the squad, or do you think it was more of a luxury signing, especially Götze and Thiago?
Some are there to improve the squad. Some of them are luxury signings, like Kirchhoff and Rode. I honestly think they would sign just so no one else would get them, because Bayern really didn't need them with Gustavo Martinez in front of them. Thiago and Goetze, I mean, Thiago's an up-and-coming player, so he has so much potential within him, in his feet and in his life. And Goetze's just when he's out on his best, he is out of this world. So they're both luxury signings and signings to improve the team, but if my honest opinion is most of them were luxury signings, especially Thiago.
Okay, you were saying it's a luxury signing. Now I'm going to switch it over to Magneto. They also, apart from letting bringing in players, they let go of Mario Gomez and Timoshuk and Sokol, but I think Mario Gomez sticks out as the biggest transfer that was let go. Do you foresee problems for Bayern? Because apart from Mandzukic, they may have to employ another tactic to just fit in Götze as well.
Yeah, you just take a look at the squad right now. I mean, last season you saw Mandzukic doing brilliantly, but Mandzukic is not getting any younger. We're not sure if he can, what if there's an injury? What's going to be the situation next? Gomez was, he didn't have the best of starts. There were stops and starts, there were injuries and whatnot, but he did finish on a strong note. So it's to see him being sold. They did get quite a good fee for him. That, to be fair, that's got to be said. But in depth, they don't have enough depth. Do you think Pep is going to try and play Mario Götze in a false nine particular situation here, like he tried out with Messi at Barcelona?
I think that's exactly what he would try to do, because he tried that he tried to do that in Barcelona, so I'm thinking he's gonna do eventually the same system. But then you have a situation where Mandzukic would be, not happy as much, so it brings up a lot of questions. So, I mean, then you have Thiago, and then when you think about it, when Pep Guardiola played the 4-1-4-1 formation, he played Thiago as a deep line midfielder, and he obviously, I won't see Bastian Schweinsteiger always bench, but will that be the future with Bastian Schweinsteiger getting less and less games? So I guess if you add in everything together, there's a couple of situations where this could backfire, but at the moment, it seems he's doing quite well, but the German Cup just was one of the games that it looks a little worrying for Pep Guardiola, but it's still early in the season, so just to point that out. And just to point, yes, sorry, go ahead.
Toni Kroos, another promising, and he was excellent before his final injury, before the Champions League. And where does Götze coming in leave Kroos? Is he going to get as many games as, the same problem that Schweinsteiger now faces with Thiago?
Yeah,
more competition.
Yeah, exactly. The question will arise: is competition going to be good, and how well will Pep Guardiola rotate? Is definitely going to be an issue, because at Barcelona he usually stuck with his first 11. He didn't really change up much. Now let's move on little bit back to this past week where Frank Ribery was nominated in the top 3 for Europe's best player. Obviously, the other 2 are Messi and Ronaldo. 13 goals. Would you like to? Was this nomination justified, considering there was other players like Robin who did pretty well, and obviously Bastian Schweinsteiger, Philipp Lahm? Do you think Ribery in general deserved that 3rd spot?
Of course. I mean, you could make a case for Lahm and Schweinsteiger as well. Not for Robin though, he was way too lazy in the early part of the season.
He did score that very important goal in the Champions League final.
Yes, but like any of the Bayern players could have done that if they were in that position. The second, he was basically let through 1-on-1.
So do you feel that Ribery was a more influential player than Robin last season?
I mean, yeah. You could look at all the goals that he scored and all the assists that he helped for the other one. Like, the only person who got close to him was Philipp Lahm with like over 10 assists for the strikers.
Okay. Yeah, I guess you can.
The only problem I have with Ribery as this thing is it just makes it look more like Messi will win it.
It's fair enough, I guess.
It's
Ribery is...
now though. Messi's the golden boy right now, so it's Messi.
Yeah, I guess we can make that conclusion. But Magneto, why do you think Ribery was the one that got the 3rd nomination ahead of some really good players, I should say?
I'm a little disappointed that defenders don't get any credit whatsoever. Philipp Lahm, especially last season for Bayern, was pretty spectacular. So, he not even getting a mention in that list is quite disappointing. In fact, is there any defender in the top 10? I don't think so.
There's no mention of defenders in the Ballon d'Or either.
Yeah, why do defenders always get such a, rough deal? But
to be fair, I forget his name,
Fabio Cannavaro.
Cannavaro did win it once, so it was a while ago.
Yeah, but that was like 6 years ago.
Yeah, it was 6 years ago.
There's not even a mention this time around that, a defender has well.
But what do you think about Ribery's nomination? Do you think he deserves it?
Yeah, Ribery does deserve it. I'm not going to take it away from him. He did have a phenomenal season. He did cut open a lot of defenses. He was just in almost every attack. So taking nothing away from Ribery, he deserves to be mentioned among the 3 best in the world right now.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. I basically.
Who do you think wins?
Yeah, I thought Ribery was a good shout. I thought Ribery was possibly the best player in the Bundesliga last season, and that showed in the top Bundesliga player award. He obviously got it, and I think if you want to put Messi and Ronaldo as the top players in the world, the best winger in the world right now is bar none Ribery. He has everything. He has pace. He has crossing. He has shooting ability. He has everything. Dribbling, you name it, basically. His tracking back is...
Ronaldo is a winger anymore.
I think he's more of a wide forward, if you ask me. He's more of a wide forward, like, if you want to exemplify winger, I think Ribery has it. And Messi is more like a wide forward as well, because he roams. Ronaldo's the same thing, but if you want a guy who sticks to the wings, I think Ribery is exactly the type of player that people like. But, I mean, Ribery tends to roam too, but in his position, there's like no one that comes close. I mean, there is obviously justification that Ronaldo could be classified as a winger, but I see him more as a wide forward. And the interpretation of a wide forward is heavily debated amongst everyone. Go ahead, sorry.
What would you say to the people who would say that Ribery was only as good as that because Philipp Lahm was behind him?
I would say that Philipp Lahm deserved a mention in just like Magneto mentioned in this award as well because he was that good. He deserves the credit as much as Ribery deserved the credit because if Alaba and Ribery, it was Alaba.
It's Alaba.
Yeah,
Lam was on the left back actually. I mean, that was the right back last season.
Yeah, Alaba. No, it was Alaba and Ribery, wasn't it? I think it was Alaba.
Yeah,
and
Alaba and Ribery, Lam and
Lam and Robin. Yeah, so you're incorrect there. Just correcting you. It was Alaba and Ribery. What Alaba did was basically make overlapping runs whenever Ribery gave him the space. So basically, Alaba had more space to work. But creating the space and also creating chances for your teammates, I think Ribery did that fantastically well, and he definitely deserves to mention in the top list. This was a pretty hefty debate, but let's move on to our next team, which is Borussia Dortmund.
Wait, one more thing.
Okay, sure.
Jupp Heynckes' Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yes, Jupp Heynckes, I'll just touch on this, that Jupp Heynckes received the Bundesliga Lifetime Achievement Award for his service in the Bundesliga for so many years. And, obviously guys, this isn't something we should be surprised with. He was, one of the best managers possibly ever to coach in a Bundesliga team. I mean, Magneto, what do you think about this award that he received?
Absolutely. He completely deserves it. Came in at a time where, he's taken over, Bayern thrice. He's coached quite a few clubs. And he's been top notch ever since he's come in. Just take a look at how organized that Bayern squad is every time they played under him. So yeah, absolutely deserves it.
Yeah, and 13 goals. Do you want to elaborate?
No, he definitely deserved it. I mean, he took quite a substandard Wolfsburg team to the title. He basically made Zeko's career, and which allowed Manchester City to come and pick him up. And he even took over Bayern again for like the third time, and like solved nearly all their problems, and made that defense literally and metaphorically impenetrable for his last season, where the only team to ever win the treble, which he was the manager of. So it's a very big deal for him to get this achievement.
Yeah, basically you guys summed it up. I just think he was one of the best managers in the Bundesliga period. So, anyways, moving on to Borussia Dortmund. Now Dortmund, they came very close last season. They were basically the Cinderella story in the Champions League, and then they were just second best to Bayern. Really, it was that close. 13 goals. How would you summarize Dortmund's season last season, and can they try to bounce back and compete with Bayern for the title this time around?
I want to say they did well, but it is kind of heartbreaking that they went out the Champions League, after no one giving them a chance of getting that far, and they got all the way to the final only to get beat by their closest rivals. Bit of a kick in the nuts, that one, eh?
Yeah, it is.
But they did very well with what they had. I mean, the Champions League run did deplete the squad quite a bit, and all three defenders had to work extra time for them to get that second place, and as well get into the Champions League final. So I would say it was a good season for them, even though Bayern kind of ran away with it in the end.
This is for Magneto. They lost their right back, Piszczek, for 6 months now because they didn't rest him. So do you think, all that time giving in to the Champions League run, do you think it was worth it? And do you think that Klopp is going to be able to fix that this season and make a more better run at the Champions League with a more organized team?
I'd love to say yes. I'd love to say that Dortmund can bounce back from, whatever problems that they're facing with injuries or with their, the squad depth and whatnot. But there are certain questions that always keep popping up with Dortmund. It's unfortunate but there is always a question now of Lewandowski. There was a question of Götze and how he's transferred over to Bayern last season, in the midst of the season that too. And there's this whole question marks around Gundogan. So it's really a scenario where we're not sure if they can hold on to any of their best players. So this is what Bayern is doing. It's just blowing other teams out of the world by buying out its opposition. So is it worth it? Can they sustain it? If any team in the Bundesliga can sustain it despite all this, it's Dortmund.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree with you. Yeah, so Klopp, I think with Klopp at their disposal, I think that Dortmund should be fine and they'll be able to go after Bayern's title again. But like Magneto said, there's always that concern that they might not be able to hold on to players, and that is exactly my next question, and that's to you, 13Goals. Do you think that with the contracts of Lewandowski, and obviously Lewandowski is not going to renew his contract, so they're going to keep him for one more season, the surrounding questions of Gundogan, do you think it's a future problem for Dortmund that they can't get these contracts settled outright?
Definitely. I mean, it's a bit disappointing that Dortmund have given all they have to Lewandowski and Goetze and all that. But it must be a big problem for Klopp because he's got to deal with new signings coming in, still working on the transfer market. I mean, if there's any manager that can handle multitasking on such a level, it's Klopp. I mean, although with them fighting for the title, I don't see it this year. But if they can keep bringing through their youth players, such as that guy they got last summer that went under the radar, and the guy who's gone on loan. If they can get them back and fighting fit, and really pushing on and getting a new left back, like a new better backup left back and a new backup right back, they'll be able to really kind of push on for the title. But with the whole Lewandowski situation and the questions around Gundogan about him and Arsenal, I just don't see them being able to go the full distance with Bayern as ruthlessly buying up as they are right now.
Yeah, and just to go back a bit, and this is for Magneto, when the Götze transfer was announced, Klopp openly said that he only knew about the deal just a few days before he would sign with Bayern. So do you think there is a growing mistrust between the board of Dortmund and Klopp due to the fact that they're not really communicating with each other, or do you see it as this deal just took place suddenly?
The problem over here is, the manager needs to know that, a player is going out and the board is considering it. But the problem is in football in general, where there seems to be a growing divide between the administrative side of things and the actual the football management side of things, where the coaches and the players and all these players. There seems to be a growing divide there. So the admins are only looking at it from a business point of view. They were looking at it is also a fact that the release clause was met, right? So
yes, the release clause was met. So
the release clause was met. So I'm not sure the board could have done much either way. Maybe it just happened very quickly. I'm going to give the board the benefit of the doubt for this one particular time, but it needs to be done in a better way. I mean, Klopp himself seemed unhappy about the whole deal. His interviews showed his discontent. So it really needs to improve the administrative side.
Yeah, I was discussing this with a few people that support Dortmund, and they seem to feel that Dortmund with they could make it up with new signings, and that's exactly what we're getting to right now. New signings is what they have bought in 13Goals, and they started off with Socrates from Werder Bremen, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and Henrik Mkhitaryan. Now, we can all think of this as long-term replacements for each position, but how do you see Socrates, Aubameyang, and Mkhitaryan fitting into Dortmund?
Well, I see them all fitting in very well. I mean, The only thing that really worries me about their transfers, if they haven't really, bulked up. I mean, their defender that they brought in was just replacement for Santana, who went to Schalke. And, the other two were just replacements for Mario Götze and eventually Lewandowski. So that's the only problem, that they haven't really improved the depth, which was the main problem. They didn't bulk up, they haven't added depth. It just seems for, replacements for the guys who have already left and the guy who is about to leave. And just a quick touch on the stuff about Mario Götze in the transfer. You could tell from, Klopp's kind of body language in the interviews, he was kind of really slouching in the chair. Had that really kind of disinterested look on his face. You could tell that the Mario Götze transfer, the release clause was met, but you could tell it did hurt Klopp a lot, considering he's seen this kid kind of grow up under his tutorship and become the player he is today.
Yeah, that's very true. And watching a player grow like that and then suddenly leaving for your biggest rivals can come as a blow for any coach like that. This is for Magneto. Obviously, 13Goals mentioned Götze leaving. They also lost a couple of other players, Santana, Oyumuela, Götze, Koch, Jinzic, Bittencourt, who they have a buyback clause for. They let Moritz Leitner go on loan to Stuttgart, Lassi Silvic, and Marvin Balakros. With the additions that they have and with the departures that they have, how do you see this Dortmund squad compared to the squad last season?
They're obviously going to have a few problems. It's going to start off with Lewandowski and Gundogan. Lewandowski, he's openly said that he has problems with the administration of the club, with the directors and whatnot, and he's unhappy. He's going to give it his best, but is he going to be able to maintain it through the length of his last season of his contract? So, without Lewandowski's offensive contributions, are they going to be good enough is another question that needs to be asked. And we've also mentioned how there have been injuries with Piszczek. I think he's out for about 6 months now.
Yeah, he's out till the end of I believe till the end of the winter. So he's back next year, I believe. Could be back even sooner, but I'm not sure. So
there's no replacement in sight. And how do they
they're playing Grosskreutz at right back right now.
Yeah, they're playing Grosskreutz at left back. I mean, but it's still not the same, I mean, Grosskreutz was important. He played quite a few games at left back last season. But still, if he gets injured, they don't have a backup for the left midfielding, and they don't have a backup for the left back. So he's performing two roles at once right now. And it might come back to bite them a little. They've promoted a couple of their youth players though.
So obviously, like I was saying, they've promoted, like you were saying, they've promoted, Marvin Dušk and Jonas Hoffmann. I think they've both impressed in the preseason. I think they'll slot in, but they're midfielders, and Dušk is a striker, obviously. So they could probably see Dušk as a long-term replacement to Lewandowski. Maybe that could be the case. But having said that, they're wide players. They're low on wide player depth right now, as you said, Magneto. So you do have a pretty good point right there. Just
but
before
Henrik,
sorry.
the new signings, you guys have got to excuse us for our pronunciations. But Henrik Mkhitaryan, and he seems to be quite a good signing, and he's had a small injury setback, but he seems to be exactly the signing that is needed to replace Götze.
Well, he is a goal-scoring attacking midfielder. He scored a lot of goals for Shakhtar in the league, and he's just that type of player that'll come in, and if Lewandowski can't start scoring, maybe Mkhitaryan can pick up the slack, because he does have the ability to score goals. So yes, he does have that instinct in him. Oh, sorry to cut you off there.
That's fine. And there is also Yves Monk, who looks quite the player. Time is going to show if he's going to be as good a player as his potential is. But it does look like a promising side. If ignoring depth, if they can bring forth that little bit of more depth they still have an excellent spot to compete for the Bundesliga.
And just to elaborate on Ayman, he's already grown a lot of supports with the fans. They call him Spider-Man, so he's already a loved figure amongst the club. Just before we move on, yeah, just before we move on from Dortmund, Jurgen Klopp had a tactics board inducted into, I believe, a museum from the Malaga game where Dortmund won 3-2. This is pretty key because I didn't think a tactics board would be put into a German museum, but 13 goals. Do you believe this is just the start of Klopp's rise? Because Klopp is already pretty known. He's made the Champions League final now once. Do you think he can go even further than this, or do you think this is where he starts to slide off?
No, I think he can go further. I mean, look how much of a quick study he was in the Champions League. I mean, they went out of that group with Arsenal, Olympiacos, and what was it? I think it was Marseille. They went out there, bottom of the group, and then the next year they're in the Champions League final without many major signing. So it's pretty amazing that he's got a big tactic board in a museum, which is good for him. But I just think he will keep rising and rising as a manager. I mean, the sky's the limit with Klopp. He could do it, go to any kind of club and help them out. Although I do fear if he goes to a club outside Germany, how that affect him, because he knows the German market so incredibly well, and he's skillfully manoeuvres from it. But the sky is the limit with Klopp and Dortmund, or whatever club he turns to be moving to later on.
But having said that, he did buy 2 players outside of the German market this time. He bought one from Ukraine and France. So it'll be interesting to see.
They were the flavour of the month. Whether they put in a lot of research into the signings or whatever, we don't know. But they really did seem to be like the flavour of the month because with Liverpool after both of them, as well as some interest from Arsenal and teams like that.
Alright, fair enough. Magneto, where do you see Klopp's immediate future, say 5 years from now? Do you see it at Dortmund, or do you see another team eventually getting him?
It really depends on Dortmund's administration pulling up their socks and just supporting their manager. If they do that, then I wouldn't be too shocked to see, him continue at Dortmund. He epitomizes the club in a way. I'm hopeful from a personal point of view. I hope that he is going to continue at Dortmund and we'll see him there 10 years from now completely redefining how to play football. Worst comes to worst, he's going to move out of Dortmund, but he still will be in a position, where he's really wanted, as you guys have said. And the only way for him is up.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. And with that, we move away from Dortmund and we go to Leverkusen. Now, Leverkusen last season finished in 3rd place, obviously with Germany having 4 Champions League spots, with the 4th one being in the qualifiers. Leverkusen are now in a spot where they are in the Champions League, but they have lost some players, and they also assigned Sami Hyypiä to full-time manager status. 13 goals. How do you see Hyypiä just as a lone manager now, and with the squad that he has? Do you think he can replicate how the season that they had last season, or do you think it'll be a little more struggling this season?
Well, I do have my doubts on Hyypiä as being the only manager this time. I mean, he hasn't got the other Lewandowski with him. We don't know how much slack Lewandowski picked up from Hyypiä or vice versa. We don't know how much which one was involved in more of the tactical process. So, it's more speculation this part. I think he'll do well. If, the signings that he's brought in already to replace the ones he lost were any indications, he's made some, pretty good signings already.
Yeah, he has made some pretty good signings to replace the signings that he has lost. Just to note to our listeners that Sasha Lewandowski is now running the youth academy at Leverkusen, so he's not the manager anymore. He's now running the youth academy with Leverkusen. So this is for Magneto. Obviously, they also have this season wasn't just a big losses for Dortmund, but also Leverkusen lost lots of players. In fact, they've lost Karjeval, they've lost Kadlic, and they've lost Schürrle. And they've also lost Daniel Shaw, but that wasn't really that big of a loss. So how do you see Leverkusen's new signings, just to name a few, Donetti, Staffelidis, Hilbert, Kruse, Son, obviously the big one. How do you see them factoring into this squad, and is it an improvement from what they had last season?
They have more depth than they have last season, but as a squad, they have a weaker squad. I really like Son, so I'm not sure they'll miss, they'll miss Schürrle all that much. Son can fit into that spot. But the main thing that they will struggle to replace is going to be Carvajal. And he's gone back for a very low fee, 6.5 million euros or something. So to replace him is not going to be easy. They have brought in a lot of players. I believe they brought in Donati, right?
Yes,
to replace.
Yes, they got Hilbert too.
Yeah, they brought in a lot of players, but it's not the same Bayern Leverkusen squad as last season. It has been dismantled. And there are also quite a few rumors about Kiesling attracting a lot of interest. There are rumors about Bender attracting more interest now. And if they really need to hold on to their those two players. If they lose them as well, then Hippe has got a huge task ahead of him. He's got to completely build the team from the word go again.
Okay, this is for 13 goals. Who do you think was more? Do you think Schürrle was an influential loss last season? Because there was a lot of talk there was a lot of questions surrounding Schürrle signing to Chelsea. Some people feel it was a high price, while some people say it was a pretty good signing. Do you think between Schürrle and Kiesling, who are two key players for Leverkusen, who do you think is the more important player? Kiesling?
Yes, and someone in this conversation was wrong about Kiesling not being the best player. I wonder who that could be.
I wonder who that.
Yeah, I wonder who.
Somebody last season was quite adamant that Schürrle is the most important player. I'm not sure he turned out to be that, did he?
No. I take that back.
It turned out to be the one that me and Magneto said. Could possibly have been correct.
I'm not gonna say it. I'll say the best thing I'll say is no comment. As Brendan Rodgers should be saying, I'll say no comment.
You're not even gonna wrong.
Nice, I'll just say no comment. Nice. But I will say that, but Magneto, you're saying that Kiesling, I mean, you're obviously I'm assuming that Kiesling is your choice as well, but what do you think the problem was with Schürrle? And, I mean, he used to interchange with Kiesling. Do you think it was just the new role he got, or what was it exactly?
New role that he's gotten, it's very difficult for a player to sustain his form all through the season. So there is that issue as well, fatigue does play a part in things. And there is also the fact that defenders start marking him more once he's had a pretty decent start to the season. So, the managers and the players give more interest in trying to single him out. And he struggled a little under that.
Yeah, I guess being heavily marked is one of the reasons why you could struggle as a manager. Now, for the upcoming season, 13 goals. Do you think that Leverkusen can challenge for the title?
I want to say yes, because I do kind of support Leverkusen. I mean, they've replaced the guys who have left and even brought in some more depth to the squad that they didn't have last year. So I would like to say yes, they can, but with Dortmund and Bayern being so more further ahead than they are in terms of spending power and ability to bring in these players, I would have to say no, which is a shame, but I think Danny Carvajal and Schürrle are just too big of a loss for them to do. Although I will say I do like what Leverkusen are doing with Carvajal, and showing what you can do with players if you really believe them and really give them the game time. And I think they're trying to do the same thing now with Donati, because he never got an appearance at Inter when they bought him.
Yeah, they also got Hilbert too, so it's it'll work out for them, I think, eventually. Magneto, how do you see? Do you think they'll challenge for the title, or do you see them challenging for at least top 4?
They will be there in top 4. They will be fighting. I don't see them challenging for the title. Sorry, man. 13 goals. I really don't think they will be. But I'd like to be proven wrong. So, but in general,
the reason why I'm asking is because they did beat Bayern at home at the Allianz Arena. So, do you think they could build on something like that?
If their team actually remained the same and they brought in depth, then yes, they would have been able to. But their team has been dismantled. I mean, two of their most, you take the entire wing, that wing with Carvajal and Schürrle, both of them are now gone. So they've got to rebuild the entire wing, and as highly rated as
Schürrle used to play on the left, and
left and right. But still, okay, I admit my mistake there. But still, they need to rebuild, quite a few players and get them playing into their philosophy, get them into the mold of things. I see that taking time, and if that takes time, then they're going to miss out on the title.
Okay, that's fair enough. I think Leverkusen are going to be challenging for at least top 4. They might struggle a bit. I'm not sure how their defense is shaping up, but they did lose a couple of players. But we'll see. It'll come down to how their midfield is going to be shaped up. Anyways, let's move on to Schalke. Schalke 04. Yeah, Schalke last season, it was an up and down season for them. They did quite well in the Champions League, considering they finished first in the group stage. But their beginning of the season, it wasn't that great, especially with Hub Stevens. It was very inconsistent, and they eventually ended up sacking Hub Stevens, and they went for a coach in the academy, Schalke. But 13 goals. How do you see that? Now they have a completely new, revamped system. They have a new coach. They have all these. They have Jens Keller, obviously, is their new manager. Sorry, trying to remember the name. Jens Keller. Do you think that Jens Keller is going to be able to take this squad and try to compete with Dortmund and Bayern?
I would say yes, they could. I mean, it'd be nice to see them and Dortmund go at it again, like the River Derbies of old. I would say yes. I mean, and they've also made some amazing signings with Santana, who I always thought was really underrated in a lot of the leagues, and Christian Clemens, guy from
Cologne.
Yeah, Cologne. Sorry, brain fart there. And Leon, who is probably one of the best young German talents in the last 5 years.
Leon Goretzka. Just to
Alright. Yeah. The only problem I see right now is the dreaded T formation that Carlo Ancelotti did. And it's kind of really, it's really strange. It does work occasionally, but it's really strange, and it's, they just seem randomly slotted in, and Zilch kind of explodes whenever he sees it. So, I don't know, that T formation is the only thing that I really do not see them going for. But their physicality is pretty good.
just to clarify on the T formation, the T formation is called the 4-2-2-2. It's yeah, and I'm sure Zilch would love to explain it on Sunday when we do the EPL podcast then. But just moving on a little bit, yeah, obviously Schalke is a squad, Magneto, that obviously brought in a lot of players. They did possibly the biggest one. You could probably the biggest one they did was probably getting Felipe Santana from Dortmund. It's probably capital punishment for Felipe Santana, but yeah. But they also brought in Christian Clemens, Adam Salai, Leon Goretzka in as well, and they obviously re-signed Julian Draxler. Now this squad that they have, do you think it was a better squad from last season? And do you think that the tactic that is being employed, the 4-2-2-2, is the right one for this squad?
Tactically, no. I think that they need to have a bit more width in the squad. But apart from that, you take a look at the squad and, okay, I have a soft spot for Dortmund, but I really am excited by the Schalke. Okay, don't, that's like saying I like Arsenal and Spurs at the same time. But, this is kind of a very good team to look at. And, players like Zalai, I think he'll fit right into the squad. I really rate him very highly. And Felipe Santana, as you guys mentioned, Clemens, these are all good players that they've gotten in. And they've improved their squad from last season. It shows in that, when they do the balance books, it's going to show. But this squad is a much better squad from last season. They sorted out, their problems from last season where, there was this whole Huntelaar issue, the whole Louis Holtby issue, the manager sacking and whatnot. This seems like a settled team for me. And even the formation, if they can just sort that bit out, I think they'll be comfortably ahead of Bayern Leverkusen.
So they'll be at least top 3, you believe?
I believe so. They have a decent chance at second. They might struggle to get there, but I think my prediction would be that they'll finish third this season.
Okay, that's fair enough. Let's consider, Huntelaar. Huntelaar was the main striker up front last season, but this season they have Adam Salai. Obviously they're playing them both up front at the same time, but who do you think 13Goals will be the preferred striker up front next season? Will it be this upcoming season? I'm sorry. Do you think it will be Huntelaar, or do you think it's going to be Salai if the manager decides to change the formation?
I think he'll still go with 2 at the front, because Huntelaar offers that poacher goal instinct. He knows how to trick defenders. He knows how to bring defenders out of position. And Salai just brings that strength. He brings that power. He can always bully defenders, keep them off their game, while Huntelaar kind of sneaks in round the back and slots it passes it into the back of the net. So I do think he'd use both of them, because I think one way out the other, it makes the whole team a bit weaker, because they both offer such drastically different changes in the gameplay.
Okay, but say if he changes to 4-2-3-1, who would you have that as the lone striker up front?
I'd have to go with Salai. He's younger. Huntelaar's really getting up there in age, and he may not have the poaching skills of Huntelaar, but the power and the strength and being a good target man can really help out on the corners and free kicks and the like. So I'm gonna go with Salai.
Okay. This is the same question to Magneto. Who do you think, if there was a formation change, who would you think would play up front?
I'd pick Salai as well. Huntelaar wasn't the best with his finishing last season, if you remember. He had quite a few clear-cut chances that he missed out on. Salai, he's used to playing in multiple roles. He can play as a second striker. He can play as a false 9 if need be. So I see Salai being the preferred striker right now. But a combination of Huntelaar and Salai, like you mentioned, is the most likely that we're going to see. And this combination could turn out to be quite deadly.
Yes, especially for the upcoming Champions League season. Just before we move on from Schalke, this is for Magneto. Do you think that Schalke is the most physical team in the league now, with Jermaine Jones and Neustadter playing in midfield?
Alright, take a look at let's come back from the defense. They brought in Santana, who is a beast. Then there is Jermaine Jones and Neustadter, both huge tanks. And then you've got Salai up front. You've got Huntelaar up front. This is a hugely physical team right now. And they are one of the most physical teams in the Bundesliga. It makes a change from what we usually see, and it might just work for them. Even in the slower formation that they're using, it might just work.
Yeah, two big guys, basically tanks. And they also have like Papadopoulos and Howidis, who are two big guys as well. It could turn out to be a very good season for them. And Fuchs is very, very physical as well. And obviously they have their right back, their Japanese right back, I forget his name. Yeah, but him too, so. Yeah, 13 goals, like, do you think this is the most physical team in the Bundesliga?
Oh, without a doubt. They're all like 6'4" tanks with armor plating on, aren't they? They're definitely the most physical team. I mean, the only other team that could come close is probably Bayern with Dante and Schweinsteiger and Lahm and all that. But I don't think anything comes close to the size and power of Schalke right now.
Yeah, Schalke is definitely one of the bigger teams in the in the league. So obviously the Bundesliga is starting this Friday. So I will.
And you also, one sec before you move on.
Yeah, sorry.
Just take a look at the players that you used to have before. The players that they've improved from. It is Marisa is gone, Obasi is gone. These are I'll give you the loss of the player from Lyon, Michel Bastos. He was good, but apart from that, they've really improved their forward line. And they've also tied the players up, the key players up for long contracts. It looks like a time.
Bosky is still there, sorry.
Is he still there? Oh, well, still, it doesn't matter if he's there on the bench now.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just wanting to correct you there. Obasi is always there.
My bad. I thought he left, but that's my bad.
Yeah, it's okay. He was injured for the season, so they bought him though. Anyways, yeah, like you were saying, this is I think this is a better team from last season, but let's get right to that, and we'll get to the predictions for each team. 13 goals, Bayern, which position will they end up, and why?
First, I mean, considering how much stocking up of players Pep has for the winter, I mean, he's practically trying to buy up the entire league. So, and he's also brought in some really talented players, and with the team they had before, and the only one they've lost is Mario Gomez, who was, being phased out anyway by Mario Mandzukic. So, I think it's Bayern's, Bundesliga to lose, unless Dortmund or Schalke or Leverkusen have one incredible season. It's Bayern's to lose.
Okay. Magneto, how do you see Bayern? Where do you see them finishing, and why?
I'm actually going to go against the norm. I'm going to say Dortmund is actually going to win. The more I think about it, I know just a few minutes ago I just said a few minutes ago I was like, Bayern is going to win. It has to win. But I'm sick of the whole concept that Bayern can just buy out the team. Let's just see how Klopp, the whole Dortmund team feels like, they're wounded a little. They want to bounce back from all this. So I'm just hoping that they can rally up. Yeah?
So you're saying Bayern will finish second?
Yeah, I'm saying Bayern is going to finish second. They're going to struggle a little initially under Pep with his new formation. And, I see Klopp actually capitalizing and Dortmund capitalizing on this start. As long as they can get a good fullback.
Okay. That's fair enough. I pick Bayern to finish first. I think Pep Guardiola will eventually sort this out. I just don't think it'll last too long. I think he'll bail on the formation as soon as as he starts to see it fail, and he'll just go back to the formation that Heynckes uses. Yeah, exactly. You can't, like, with the amount of depth that Bayern have, I just don't see them losing out on the title this year either.
Even with Pep Guardiola.
Exactly. So, okay, 13 goals. Borussia Dortmund. Where do you see them finishing this year and why?
Borussia Dortmund. I see them finishing second. I mean, they've replaced all the players that left with quite suitable replacements, and they still have Lewandowski for a year. I mean, that depends on how much he wants to be there. I mean, he may pull a Berbatov and sulk on the bench for the next year. But, we don't know. He may reinvigorate him and he may sign a new contract and they'll keep him there forever. I mean, we don't know if the hero's gonna get the girl. But, Dortmund, I'm gonna say second.
Second's fair enough. Magneto, where do you see Dortmund finishing next season and why? Well, you already kind of explained it, so.
I'm hopeful. It's not a logical answer, but, football is not always about logic, so let's shake it up a little. I'll say Dortmund is going to win first.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. I'm saying Dortmund will finish second, but I hope they finish first too, just like Magneto. I hope there's a little glimmer. Whatever that glimmer is, I hope Klopp is able to take it and transform it into a title for them. For Leverkusen, 13 goals, where do you see Leverkusen finishing and why?
Well, now this is a bit of a tougher one. I want to say third, because I like Leverkusen, but I just think Schalke, with their new physicality, their new strength, their new height, and their new manager, even with the T formation, I think they can finish third. I'm going for Schalke.
So Schalke will finish third, but where do you see Leverkusen finishing?
A close third. They're gonna come fourth, but they're gonna be, like, really close with, a few more, only a couple of points difference.
Okay.
Leverkusen have also replaced, quality with quality. It seems to be Bundesliga motto now, doesn't it?
Yeah, replace quality with quality. Anyways, Magneto, where do you see Leverkusen finishing and why?
Yeah, I agree with Robin. I mean, it's quite a good season so far from, transfer season from Schalke, and I see them finishing third. I also see, Leverkusen giving it everything they have. It's not a team which, just gives up. They have quite a bit of a crafty nature to them. So I see them coming in for fourth. I don't see them finishing third, but yeah, it's going to be close. It's not going to be a boring season, I'll give you that.
Okay, you guys chose Leverkusen to finish fourth. I'm gonna say they finished outside of the top four this season. Yeah, I'm gonna say, I think another team that we haven't talked about will just nick it off of them, and that's Borussia Mönchengladbach.
Yeah, it is.
It's Borussia Mönchengladbach. I think they will take the Champions League spot this season. Schalke,
are you correct, skies?
Schalke will end up finishing third. Maybe if they can get a little consistency going, maybe even second. Dortmund, it'll come down the top three. I think will be shaped by Schalke, Dortmund, and Bayern. It'll be a pretty interesting race, but that fourth place race, it's open to any of the teams that are in the top seven. From fifth place down. So fifth place.
Do you think Freiburg can make another season?
I think Freiburg is, because I'm going to ask this right away. Actually, my next question was, I'll just answer it right now. I think the surprise team of the season may be Freiburg. I mean, yes, they lost a lot of players. They lost most of their key players like Caligiuri and Kruse. I still think with their coaching staff and Oliver Baumann, he might have a bounce back season. I think they might actually do quite well, and I think Nuremberg is the other one that might shock the Bundesliga this season.
Frankfurt.
I don't think Frankfurt has it in them this season. They did buy a lot of players, but I don't know. Armin Vey, we'll see how he does in the second season. Okay, 13 goals. Who do you have as your who do you think will be the shock team of the season that'll place higher than it should be?
I want to go for Werder Bremen, but they've lost Shaft and they lost their manager and they've already banned a player. I want to say Hamburg.
You gonna say Hamburg?
Yeah.
You think Hamburg is gonna be? Why though? Do you think they'll just have better squad continuity, or?
I mean, they've
lost Son.
Yeah, but they've still got Rudnevs, and Rudnevs is one hell of a player.
Yeah, Rudnevs is really good. So I guess
no one's picked him up yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm surprised too. Apparently Celtic were interested in him. Anyways, that's moving into another topic, but let's move into Magneto. Who do you have as your surprise team of the season?
I'm not really sure about a surprise team, to be honest. It's, if you think about it, Schalke is a little, not really. I just think it's not going to change too much from last season. Gladbach is going to improve. It remains to be seen if it's going to take fourth away from any other team. But apart from that, I don't see major shocks this season. It's going to go along the same lines. The top 7, the top 8 is going to remain the top 8. I don't see anyone breaking from the bottom up into the next level.
Okay, so you say there isn't going to be a change that way, but which team do you think is going to underperform this season?
Our favorite whipping boy, Hoffenheim.
Again.
We can't. Yeah. It's impossible not to take a pot.
Just to our listeners who are listening in, I just want to say that we absolutely despise Hoffenheim. All three of us. There's nothing against their fans or anything. We just don't like the way their club is run. But sorry, Magneto, I had to cut you off. But
no worries about that. It's just that, yeah, Hoffenheim, none of us like it, and they did get in a couple of good players. To be fair to them, they got Modeste from Bordeaux. And they also got El Yunusi from Rosenborg. So, but still, I don't see them pulling off another season of. They should have been relegated last season. They managed it somehow. I see them going down this season.
13 goals. What do you have?
Who should I go for? I mean, there's Hoffenheim, and then there's Hoffenheim. I mean, they should have down last season. A brief, run at the end got them out, but I just don't see that happening again this season. And even then, they were underperforming considering how much money they spent on their team. So, Hoffenheim. Hoffenheim, definitely Hoffenheim.
Okay, I'll just quickly say, I'll say Werder Bremen will get relegated this season.
Screw you.
Yeah, Werder Bremen, I don't see it. I just don't see their squad up to the standard of the Bundesliga. Last season they really struggled. I think they'll struggle this season too. Okay, let's quickly get this up.
They even lost Paratus.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, I'll just quickly go to Magneto. Who do you think is going to get relegated this season?
I agree. Werder Bremen is one team to get relegated. They lost their, good defender. I mean, that was one of their best, and they lost him. And Hoffenheim is another team. Probably Augsburg. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure with the third one.
Braunschweig.
Braunschweig is a possibility. Augsburg is another possibility. Let's see what happens there.
13 goals. Who do you have as your 3 teams that are going to go down?
3 teams?
Yep.
I don't want to say Bremen, but they've lost Shaft. They've lost...
You gotta say it.
No. And they've, so it pains me to say this, because I am a fan of Werder Bremen. I have to go with them. And, maybe Frankfurt, considering how many players they've lost. They still have a good team, but they may lack a lot of depth when it comes to injuries and such. And probably the one that Magneto said, was it Braunschweig? Yeah, them. Because new teams in the Bundesliga tend not to stay up for very long. So I'll have to go with them.
Okay, I'm surprised you guys chose, I'm having a Frankfurt. I'm surprised you chose Frankfurt 13 goals, because you do know they made a couple of really good signings. Right.
Yeah, but they've already lost a bunch of their main players.
And they replaced them. Anyways, that's your choice. My choices are Hoffenheim, Werder Bremen, and Hertha, BSC. Yeah, those are my three choices. Anyways, next season, who do you think, let's just quickly get this out of the way, who do you think will be the top goal scorer in the Bundesliga next season? Magneto.
I'm going to say Zalai. I have a feeling he's going to surprise us a bit.
Okay, 13 goals, who do you have?
I want to say Kiesling, but since Schürrle set him up for so many times, I'm gonna go with Mandzukic.
Mandzukic? Okay. I am going to pick Lewandowski.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think he'll have a really good season before he leaves Dortmund.
Damn hipster.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. Okay, just before we end this podcast, we'll have our player of the season predictions, and then you guys can go in peace. Magneto, who do you think will be the player of the season next season in the Bundesliga?
Player of the season is always a tough one, isn't it? There's so many good players everywhere.
Yeah.
I'll stick to Lam. I really like Lam and his leadership, so I'll still say that it's going to be Lam or Ribéry, one of these two. But for me, I'll pick Lam.
Okay. 13 goals, who do you have?
I'm going for Frank Ribéry. I mean, he's got that nomination for the UFA player, and that's got a kind of, and even if he loses that's got to spur him on to playing a lot better than, maybe even better than he did last year, which would be an awesome thing to see.
Okay. I choose Ribéry. Obviously. Yeah. I think Ribéry he's just gonna basically repeat what he did last season and just carry on that momentum into this season. Yeah, that's my predictions. We all chose Bayern players, didn't we? Yes, we did.
Yes, we did.
Okay. They did win the trophy.
I mean, it's possible that Marco Reus might sneak in there, but yeah, I still don't.
Yeah, maybe, but just don't see it. Anyways, we've reached the end of this podcast. We hope you enjoyed our preview to the Bundesliga. This is just the start of our podcasts that are going to be posted on the fourth place trophy blog. We would love to hear feedback from you guys, and we'd love to hear, you can contact us through the blog or even our Twitter handle. From Cloudst and Magneto and 13 Goals, this was the Bundesliga Preview. Thank you for listening.
Ciao.